big day. Let's go through where we are right now. The good news is the curve of the increase is continuing to flatten. The number of hospitalizations appears to have hit an apex, and the apex appears to be a plateau, which is what many of the models predicted, that it wasn't going to be a straight up and straight down. It was going to be a straight up. You hit the top number, and then you plateau for a period of time, and that looks like what we are doing. The hospitalization rate is down, and that's important. We have more people getting infected still. We have more people going into the hospitals, but we have a lower number. That's all this is saying.
Andrew Cuomo, governor of New York. The Democratic Party, and this is so sad. Like, this is like sad on a level with the creation of the universe. Meaning the level of energy that went into the Big Bang, or whatever necessarily came on, turning on of the computer, whatever energy went into that, that is the degree of sadness that is associated with this. Governor Andrew Cuomo, is the person who the Democratic Party want to join the race and want the DNC to get rid of Joe Biden. Meaning they want to replace Joe Biden with Andrew Cuomo. Andrew Cuomo is practically a Republican. And even though he is out here screaming about healthcare and begging Donald Trump for ventilators, he also is cutting healthcare in the state of New York. Put that in perspective. That's the guy who they're screaming for to take power and to take over Joe Biden. There are some damning poll results for one Joe Biden that gets across the level of weakness and fecklessness and utter unenthusiasm on this particular candidate on two fronts. On the front that they want Cuomo for this particular job, and on the other front that they don't see him as being a better alternative than Trump in regards to dealing with the coronavirus. How sad. How sad. Welcome to the Soapbox. My name is Jamal Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, if you dig this content, please like, share, and subscribe. You can always support PayPal, Patreon. This content is indeed brought to you by you. And so I appreciate it. I'm sorry. In that moment, I know that there are going to be a lot of people who dislike what I say going forward, because this channel is not on board for Joe Biden. And because this channel is not on board for one Joe Biden, there are going to be a lot of blue no matter who's who are going to be belly aching and belly hooing that I need to get on board. You must understand, though, the policy that I am advocating for, this mass dissent, this notion of lose-lose politics where, no, I don't have capacity to win anymore because my guy essentially didn't fight. I do have the capacity to make you lose. And in having the capacity to make you lose, I am making my concerns your concerns, because you are ignoring what I am saying. If you want to get anything done, you start there. I hate to tell you this. Some lefties may, be shocked and flabbergasted at me not being blue no matter who, but be aware. The Democratic Party did exactly what I just said. The policy that I advocated is literally what took place in the Democratic primary. I know it doesn't entirely look like it because you're looking at the race from a one-to-one standpoint, but imagine for the moment if the race is not a one-to-one standpoint, the race is between the Democratic Party and Donald Trump, and your objective is to beat Donald Trump. And you, as the Democratic Party establishment, says Bernie Sanders is not who we want. We say, fuck you, we're choosing Sanders. What do? They turn around and they say, fair enough. We are going to use the entire political apparatus and our media lackeys to effectively go against your guy. We say, but you're going to lose against Trump. They say, we don't care. They say, we don't care. Right now, Donald Trump is giving briefings like this. Just embarrassing briefings.
Have had trouble with getting accurate death counts, particularly because of lack of testing or no uniform.
Did you see death counts?
Yes. because of lack of testing and no uniform system
I
to
don't know.
put that into.
When you say death counts, I think they're pretty accurate on the death count. Somebody dies, I think the states have been pretty accurate.
But if there's no testing.
That's a big deal, what you're just saying. No, the death counts, I think they're very, very accurate. I do say this, I think if you look at China and if you look at some of these very large countries, when you talk about cases, number of cases, I would be willing to bet they have more cases than we do, but they don't do.
They don't. They don't. Just as a flat fact, they don't. The United States, epicenter of the virus, what is that? 522,320, 19,444 new cases, 20,086 deaths. We've hit the 20,000 mark. Interesting. Total recovered, that matters less. Total deaths, 1,339 new deaths. 1,339 new deaths. 20,086 total deaths. And again, this is only the beginning. Meaning this is what, 16.6 million people losing their jobs. What, you're going to have like 5 million or more people without health care. Those people next month are going to have to pay their rent. Those people next month are going to have to pay their car note, their school loan, all that stuff. They're going to have all of these expenses that they are going to have to cover and they are going to have to pay for. And in a country where the overwhelming majority are living paycheck to paycheck, that is a perfect disaster. That is an utter disaster. 20,086 deaths. And again, it didn't have to be this way. We knew it was coming. We could look at what China was doing. Whatever Donald Trump says, China shut down a city the size of New York. Now, New York City. Now, you're looking at that and you're like, I don't know how bad that is. Get out of here. Get out of here. Trump is also, again, another embarrassing press. Actually, Trump has had several embarrassing press conferences. But also understand who his competition is. His competition is this guy. This guy. That's the standard bearer for the Democratic Party, Joe Biden. Listen to Joe Biden for weeks saying that the Wisconsin election should be held. After weeks. And this is after the CDC recommendation saying stay home. This is after the Surgeon General said it's going to be a 9/11 moment. This is after all of these scientists saying don't go out, stay home. All of these nurses and doctors saying I came out the house so you don't have to, stay safe and make my job easier. Joe Biden, you need to go in Wisconsin and vote. Then immediately after the vote tally was taken, Joe Biden comes out and says this.
Do you think you won in Wisconsin tonight? Ordinarily, I'd be hitting you over the head with all these exit polls and crosstabs and things that I know about people all the way down to what they like for lunch. We're not going to have anything until Monday. What's your gut?
No, we're not. Well, my gut is that we shouldn't have had the election in the first place.
Think about how mind-blowing that is. That's beyond Trump level of lying. Like, think about that. Joe Biden has been out there telling people that they need to have the election in Wisconsin. You need to go out and die to get me elected. And doing so entirely for political reasons. Joe Biden's main constituency, African Americans, 70% of Chicago died. Showing you the disparity in regards to inequality and in regards to the death rate of the COVID-19 virus. We all don't die equally of this. Inequality matters, especially if it has some level of medical component associated with it, where it creates some level of weakness. And Joe Biden is telling those people, go out and risk your lives to get me in office right now. If somebody was rational, sane, cared about health, cared about science, they would have said, and confident, let's push it to 2 months. I'm Joe Biden. I'm going to be here. I'm going to beat Trump like a drum. Let's do it. But no, he didn't want to do that. He wants to wrap this up as soon as possible, which means that even if people die as a result, Joe Biden is okay with that. Then immediately after he comes out, my gut tells me we shouldn't do that. That's the competition. This guy is the competition that Donald Trump is running with. And after this, I'm going to show you some devastating polling that gets across. The public is noticing this. For the longest time, I kept thinking, certainly Democrats have to see this. The guy, there is no way that they can't observe this. Clearly, the man is cognitively challenged. He's out of it. And apparently, they do. Apparently, they do. Let's hear this clip. Let's hear Joe Biden give us some of his wisdom.
President Trump for his response, sort of the slowness of the response for weeks now, but a few recent polls suggest that public approval has actually increased of the president's sort of job performance. And I wonder why you think the public doesn't see his leadership the same way as you do.
Well, I'm not suggesting what the public sees about his leadership. Let me take the last question first. What I'm suggesting is that I know what has to be done in the following, that faster is better than slower. Things we need now, not tomorrow, not yesterday, but months ago or a month ago, and the president's not acting. Now, I don't care whether the president's numbers are going up and down. And yes, and I noticed that the president's numbers of the public have gone up in handling this crisis, but they haven't gone up in terms of his presidency.
Gallup did show he is now at 49% job approval, which is a reversal from a few weeks ago. So it's just an interesting development. It does suggest that the American people see him as a stronger leader than you've been maybe characterizing him.
Well, I hope that he does. He's so strong that he's up way above that, because we need the help now. We need help now.
What is he talking about? What is, like, God, I can't believe this. I have to be honest. I didn't conceive of the situation that Sanders would run the race and it would be that dysfunctional. I read the political article of what went on behind the scenes and the various people not going for the jugular, hobbling the people who goes out in order to stump for him. The conversations between him and Jane, what they consider to be this kind of ethical politics that nobody else attended to in the middle of the contest. It was a feather fight. And because it was a feather fight, Joe Biden, that man right there, that cognitively challenged man, is going to go out and deal with Donald Trump. And Donald Trump is going to stomp a mud hole in him. It's possible, don't misunderstand me, that because of how bad things are with the coronavirus and because of the potential lives lost, say if it's a worst case scenario, then it doesn't matter if Trump stumps a mud hole in Joe Biden in debate and debate after debate. Joe Biden still may shuffle across, muttering, barely understandable and incoherent, into the White House. That man is the Democratic Party's standard bearer. This is the point that I'm making to you. And the strategy that I make the argument saying, you have gone for 40, 50 years voting for a party that doesn't have your political interests, doesn't have your policy ideals in heart, doesn't care about those particular policy ideas, and believes that because you have nowhere else to go, that you would ultimately always fold in your support, meaning there's no objective, there's no potential for you to ever get what you want accomplished in the political system under that model, which is why they continue to keep the power in year after year after year after year. Sanders running somewhat of an insurgent campaign, trying to reinstate the party in this way and put these ideas. One of the things that he was successful on was introducing these ideas into the American public and shifting the hegemonic norm and making it clear to everybody who's in this particular movement that the ideas that you were pushing for and you believe in are indeed popular. That is a gift, believe it or not. Because for the last 40, 50 years, you have been told that they were not. And the fact that Sanders can run this race. Now, here's the catch. Environmental factors change human beings. And so it's possible that during Reagan, Sanders wouldn't have gotten any airplay. But we are not in the Reagan era. We are in the Reagan era, but we are not in that particular environment. We are in a completely different environment with a generation that has been left behind and fucked over, and has found him as to be their righteous bit of rage. My point is, if you are ever to get anything accomplished in the political space, you need to have fanatical devotion to policy, not to human beings. You can have influence on the political space without necessarily being empowered. That's kind of my point. But that influence is shown with your capacity to either win or your capacity to inflict losses on the people who you consider to be your buddies and allies or the closest to you politically by not voting for them and going against them so they can lose. My pain is going to be your pain. You're not going to ignore me. The Democratic Party literally did that in this race. They didn't want Bernie Sanders. They understood that Joe Biden was senile and could potentially lose to Trump. That did not in any way stop them from going after and trying to destroy Sanders. And by the way, even up until the point of going to a broker convention, something that they have to entirely understand, would effectively lose the race if they ripped it from the person who actually got the most delegates. And this is a party that had been screaming for the longest time, Hillary Clinton got 3 million more votes, the Electoral College. So, put that in perspective. You must understand, if you want to understand this race in 2020, the first objective, the first mission, the first priority was to stop Sanders. Everything else was subordinate to that, including beating Trump. There were levels of subsistence that the Democratic Party was willing to accept in order to stop Sanders. Because the fact of the matter is, all of those people who are in the party right now that are in the upper echelon go up in smoke the moment that Sanders takes power. He was the priority. Third priority, which also gets across that they know that they're going to lose, is blaming Sanders supporters already for their loss, as if it's somehow Sanders supporters' responsibility for getting their person in office. Let the septuagenarians and octogenarians with their shorts walk and knock on doors. This is the guy you chose. Now, buyer's remorse. And this is the most fascinating part to me. Buyer's remorse. They are fawning over Andrew Cuomo. They are loving them some Andrew Cuomo. Andrew Cuomo, again, the guy who's been attacking healthcare in New York, they're fighting over it. Look at these poll results in regards to the way people were viewing Biden versus Cuomo. The national poll found 56% of Democrats prefer Cuomo, with 44% wanting to stick with the presumptive nominee, a 12-point margin outside the 4.8% margin of error. Hispanic voters, young people, women, and self-identified liberals are most likely in favor of dumping the former vice president for Cuomo. Some Democrats are still clamoring for an alternative to Biden, who faded from public view during the coronavirus outbreak, which elevated Cuomo to daily press conferences. Biden was doing this from his living room in his pajamas. I don't even know if he had pants on. But there he was, shuffling, incoherent, muttering, with help from his wife in order to keep him on pace. Club for Growth Vice President of Communications Joe Killidia told the Post that results highlight Biden's weaknesses as a candidate. With every major news event, Democrats realize more and more how bad of a candidate Joe Biden is, and Democrats are now preferring Cuomo as just another example. Ouch. Respondents also asked, based on what you know today, do you agree or disagree that the Democrats should nominate Cuomo for president instead of Joe Biden? Respondents were asked, that's what they were asked. Among the people of any party, including independents who voted for Democratic Hillary Clinton in 2016, the percentage favoring Cuomo was 57%, meaning the people who voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016 to take the presidential race, those people preferred Cuomo over Biden. Of those who voted for Trump in 2016, 53% preferred to keep Biden. Now think about that for the moment. Think about that. Why? Why? Do you think that those Trump supporters want by 53% to keep Biden because they think he's going to make a great president? Or do you think they're voting for Biden because of videos like this, where he's out of his gourd? Like, I guess I'm making the point that they're voting for Biden, or they prefer Biden, because they know
you've been criticizing President
that
Trump
he's
for
out
his,
of it. He's out the lunch.
response to the
President's numbers.
which is a reversal from a few weeks ago.
Watch this.
So
Watch this.
it's just an interesting development. It does suggest that the American people.
He's just been
see
fact
him
checked.
as a
He
strong
doesn't know what to do
candidate
now.
and
He has to come up with something off the top of
Well,
his head,
I hope
extemporaneous.
that he does. He's so strong that he's up way above that, because we need the help now.
So Joe Biden is saying that he hopes the president is way up above where he is in his approval rating, which doesn't really make sense, to be honest. He said, because we need the help now. I don't know what that means. She's asking you a question about Donald Trump's approval rating. Joe Biden has to talk off the top of his head. And he says, well, I hope he's well above that. What do you mean? You hope his approval rating is above that? Because we need the help now. Yeah, Joe, but what does approval rating have to do with needing the help right now? No, like, that's kind of my point. It doesn't connect. He and those Republicans have seen these videos. They know that this is Joe Biden. And the reality of it is, so do Democrats. Because they otherwise wouldn't be trying to dump Joe Biden for Cuomo by a tune of 56% to 44% if they were satisfied with this particular purchase. You were warned. Among voters 25 to 34 of any party preference, Cuomo 67%. 57% of all women, 58% of Hispanic voters preferred Cuomo. Among whites and people with college and graduate school degrees, there was a near even split. The results build on the findings from Rasmussen's poll that was conducted that found 46% of Democrat voters preferred Biden, 45% preferred Cuomo, effectively an even split. Poll results shared with the Post also rated approval or disapproval rating of Biden and Cuomo in handling the virus outbreak. Cuomo, 54% of all respondents approve, 20% disapprove. Biden, 32% approve. 32% approve of him handling of the coronavirus in his house, in his underwear. 35% disapprove. 34% were unsure. You weren't unsure. You weren't unsure. You just didn't want to say it. You weren't unsure at all. You knew what was going on. You just didn't want to say that he's out of it. That's all. He didn't want to say he was out of his gourd. I hate to tell you this, he is out of his gourd. Trump will be saying it every day on every stage. He will be screaming, "Where's Hunter Biden?" He will be saying Joe Biden was putting black people in prison when I'm letting them out. He will also say Joe Biden has been lying about the civil rights movement, and he will show that video that Sanders wouldn't necessarily show. He would point to the money that his kid got. He would show the grifting family members in regards to the career of Joe Biden. He would point to the Trans-Pacific Partnership. He would point to NAFTA. All of that stuff is ammo. And yes, he will also point to rape, which Fox News will aptly start to air very soon, with Tara Reid talking about Joe Biden raping her. Charges have just been filed. I hope you appreciate your choice. You were, after all, warned. Like, share, subscribe. Thanks all.